So it's so great to meet you.
Hi, Emma. It's lovely to meet you too.
I've I'm the reviewer who came to see your show in July. Before we get on to the interview part, I'm gonna say I was absolutely like blown away by it. It was absolutely incredible. And my mom sat next to me and she's like the hardest critic I know, and she was like, it's incredible. So well done.
Thank you so much, Emma. I really appreciate you making the time to come out to a small preview of a Edinburgh show. It really it meant a lot to us as a team, and yeah, thank you for making the time.
Well, I'm just starting out, so like when I saw Spin, I think it was my third, and I'm like barely
Oh,
just starting out. So it was honestly a great opportunity. So thank you for the
so,
invite.
but also I follow you on Instagram, and it seems like things have really taken off. That's so exciting.
Yeah, it's absolutely mind-blowing considering I'm only 18, so things are yeah, it's
Girl,
really
get
cool.
it. That's amazing. Hell yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna start with
Good,
like
good for you. Like, good for you. Like, pre-interview, like, way to fucking go. Just doing it, getting out there and doing it. And congrats. Congrats.
thank you. Um, I want to start with some like basic questions that are not necessarily in relation to Spin, just about your career as an actress and as how you came on to do Spin, if that's okay with you.
That's great.
Okay, so pretty basic, but is acting something that you've always wanted to do, or is it something like a last minute decision where you're like, oh wait, no, this is maybe what I should be doing?
Kind of both. Kind of both. I always wanted to do it, but I think I felt a lot of embarrassment and sort of shame about it because it's not, a sort of quote proper profession, um and not something that a smart person does. So I always did it from a childhood, but I was like, oh well, I'm gonna eventually I'll go be a lawyer. Um and then after I graduated my undergraduate degree, I started getting cast in plays, and I sort of had a moment of like, okay.
Yeah,
All right, like wait, come on, Kate, like let's get real. You don't want to do that. All you want to do all the time is be in the theater. So yeah, both.
yeah, it's funny that you say lawyer because I'm actually doing a law degree at the moment.
Amazing.
So
It's
um,
something, it's incredible. I think and I think it has a lot of similarities to acting and theater creation.
yeah,
Um so I think it goes alongside, but eventually I realized I wanted to do more acting. Yeah.
that makes sense. Um, so like you said, you started as a child. Was it like after school clubs or like was it like yeah.
Yeah,
It's
after school clubs, camps, just in school, I would always want to do drama classes, and I would work so hard for all in middle school, just like working so hard, and I'd be in plays and musicals and stuff like that at school, and I was just obsessed. Yeah,
yeah, a real theater kid.
yeah.
So pretty basic question, but would you rather star in a play or in a musical?
Oh golly, I think it would depend on on the team and the material. I used to do a lot more musical theater before coming to the UK. And I haven't been, that's not been my sort of focus since moving to the UK. Yeah, I think it would depend on the team and the material, because like a good musical over a bad play, and a good play over a bad musical, and that's what I'd say.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So shall we move on to spin? Because we've got
Sure.
limited amount of time. Um, First, for those who haven't seen the show, what is it actually about?
So, the story of spin is a spin instructor trying to create the perfect spin class. Um, and she is very driven, very positive, pursuing this with everything she's got. And the audience is witnessing her putting on a spin class. And I'm on a spin bike almost the entire time. Uh, and as the show progresses, we sort of realize that things aren't exactly what they seem. And she's thrown into a journey that she didn't quite expect. So without giving it away, that's what I'd say. And then thematically, I think it's about toxic fitness culture, fat phobia, capitalism, and the sort of expectations that capitalism can put on us, and how it can put us on it benefits from us never feeling like enough, never feeling complete. That's how capitalism works. And perfectionism and overcoming perfectionism. Yeah, and just how hard it is to be a human with with a body in this period of time, especially for women, but increasingly for men. There's just a lot of grief about our bodies that we don't really get to talk about. And I think that was like the heart of spin, is this sort of unspoken grief that I think so many of us have over our relationship with our bodies. That's supposed to be, it's where we live, right? Our bodies are our homes, and yet they get turned into prisons so easily.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's what spin's about.
I think there's a quote that you said in the show that really stuck with me that said, "A birthright becomes our prison," or something along those lines.
This birthright cannot be a prison. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
it speaks on so many levels. Uh, the writing of this show is absolutely it's incredible.
Well, thank you, Emma.
What gave you the inspiration for it? Because a show in itself is, well, it's a play, but performing it on the spin bike, it's a pretty new idea. So what inspired you to do that?
Um, During the pandemic, there were, especially the early days of the pandemic, a lot of people were putting videos out uh, online of them doing things, whether it was like, oh, here's a monologue that I've been practicing, or here's a play that I wrote, and there seemed to be all this desire to maintain productivity and to demonstrate that we were maintaining productivity at a time when the world was possibly ending for all we knew. And another form that took was fitness instructors um, putting out these videos of fitness routines from their homes. And they maintained a lot of the rhetoric and positivity of that we know from exercise classes, but it just struck me as so all of that struck me as so bizarre and kind of desperate and scary, that we were all so scared, and yet it was like, look at what I'm doing. See, can you see how much I'm doing? I'm still good because I'm producing value. And I found that really affecting, and that feeling that we have to produce in order to have worth, which is a very capitalistic idea. Um, that was the initial seed, and I during the pandemic I had a thought, maybe I could write a show and film it from my house where I'm leading a spin class, because I think spin culture is also its own very specific thing, and spin culture was really having a moment during the pandemic because people were spinning in their homes. So I thought, oh, I'll film an exercise class, but it'll be about a spin instructor sort of having a nervous breakdown. So that was the initial idea. And then, but also during the pandemic, I ended up just feeling like I couldn't do anything. It felt so wrong to try to force myself to do anything. I couldn't do anything creative. So it took a few years after the pandemic I was like, maybe I could work on this now. Maybe I could make this into a play.
That's yeah, it seems pretty intense. I mean, the whole idea of the play itself is it's harsh. It brings about the harsh realities of life. And if you couple that with like a depressing time, because let's face it, the pandemic was a very depressing time. It's it's also like it's without sounding too pessimistic, it's also very important to put a message like that out there to
Mm.
to bring awareness to these sort of like toxic cultures. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I hadn't really seen. I mean, I think there's discussion about eating disorders, and there's some discussion in the general culture about fat phobia. Fat activists are out there and they are saying things, but I don't think there's quite the understanding about like how hard life is for fat phobia and for people who are fat. And also that fat phobic thinking hurts everyone, not just fat people. It hurts skinny people. And I was really interested in showing a skinny person, because I live in a skinny body, like showing a skinny person who is so damaged by fat phobic thinking, and that hopefully people seeing how much believing that a lack of fat is our greatest form of worth, how damaging that is to everyone, would, if they can't, if it's too hard for people to gain empathy for fat people, maybe they can see that they are also victims,
Yeah.
victims and perpetrators, um, of this toxicity. Yeah, and I do think it's important, and I haven't seen it discussed in that way on stage before, and with a specific focus on fitness culture. That was something I hadn't seen on stage before. But I love exercise and I love, you know, all that sort of stuff. So it's something that's very close to my heart, and I feel like I personally can speak to.
Yeah, that seems yeah. I'm not sure what to say to that because it's the whole idea of the pandemic has brought about such not sure how to put this into words actually. It's mental health and like everything fitness related and all of that has taken such a like a deep dive during the pandemic that coming out of it, like some mentality has changed, but there is still that toxic underbelly that needs to be addressed. And a show
Yeah.
like Finn is a good way to do it because
Mm.
well, there's the pure irony of it that you're actually a fitness instructor and talking about how toxic it actually is. So it's it's a good message. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, just to clarify, I as Kate am not actually a fitness instructor.
your
I
character.
do not I am not qualified to talk about fitness, but I think I did manage a gym for a while, and I in London, and I did see a lot of fitness instructors who are supposed to be people who guide us into health, and yet they were so consumed by deeply unhealthy ideas, and it was quite frightening actually to see. And as you say, the painful irony, and also like we're not, the pandemic's not done, like people are hurting. We can sort of get back to normal, but like people aren't okay. We're not okay. It was just like get back to work. There's not, the grief and the pain hasn't been reckoned with. And I think, you know, although spin is focusing on fitness culture, I think it also speaks to like a real tiredness and panic around trying to continue a system that we've been shown doesn't work,
Yeah.
you know, and trying to slot back into a system that we know that could is so fragile. And when push comes to shove, this system will sacrifice our lives to keep it alive, where we don't matter to this system, to the capitalistic system. Not really. Uh, and Yeah, there's, I think we still, and people, and we're very aware of that now. We know that we are expendable, and yet we have to slot right back into it and go back to work. And that, I think we're all hurting. We're all hurting still.
It's this idea of trying to put tape over a leak at some point is gonna combust, and it's gonna not make it worse than it was before, but it very much could.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all being controlled by, we're all like tiny pawns in the game of life. It's like we're not really masters of our own futures in the end, which is kind of a depressing thought, but
I do have hope though, like in spin too, you know, I do have hope that there are other ways to be. There are other ways to be, and that this is a time that pain that we feel actually can clear the way for radical new thinking. You know, sometimes you have to hit a kind of rock bottom to really let go old ideas. And I am a hopeful person. You know, I don't know that I'm an optimist, but I'm hopeful. And I do believe that there are other ways to be, and that we can make changes.
yeah.
Because otherwise, like, you know, why continue?
Yeah. That's moving on from a slightly down note. What was the rehearsal process like for Spin? Because I mean, it's just you as a performer and as a writer, so it's
Yeah, for the Edinburgh run, and also actually for this upcoming run at the Arcola, limited rehearsal, really limited rehearsal. I think we had 6 rehearsals before Edinburgh,
oh, wow.
3 of which were before that preview. So I had 3 rehearsals, which were um, mostly working on the script, trying to finalize the script before the preview that you saw. So lots of work by myself, and then 3 more days of rehearsal before we went to Edinburgh, with my very long suffering and very patient director, SJ Showstack, who yeah is, you know, I'm so grateful for her like intelligence and patience, because this is my first play that I've written. I haven't written a play before, so you know, really trying to figure out how to do it, and also you have to act it. And so yeah, I would characterize the rehearsal process as like fraught and scary. But ultimately, you know, if you're trying to learn a new skill and you want to do something hard, it's just going to be fraught and scary. And I felt I was very, very well supported by my director and my producer, Three Hearts Canvas. They like just have been the absolute best, trying to set me up to just be the artist and not have to worry about all the other production related stuff. Yeah, I am so lucky that I have this team. It really just wouldn't be possible without the team.
Yeah.
Like it can feel like I'm writing it and I'm in it, and it could feel like it's maybe a one person show, but it's just like, really, if anybody else wants to make a one person show, just know you can't do it alone. Don't expect to do it alone. You're going to need help.
It takes a village, right?
Yeah, it takes a village for sure.
I mean, it's good that you have people there to support you. I mean, it's an incredibly important part of the process, and it's often overlooked. As you said, the actors
Yeah.
often get most of the recognition, whereas the people who are doing all the work backstage, working on the production, and actually doing the marketing and getting out there, it's a pretty hefty job.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know that my show's, it's a solo show, but again, without giving too much away, the lights and the sound and the space play a really important role in the piece. And you know, our sound and lights and set design, that's absolutely crucial, you know, absolutely crucial to the play. There, it's the other character, along with the audience, it's the other character in the piece. So I couldn't do it without him. and we have such a talented team. Like we our producers assembled a really talented team. So yeah, I feel so lucky.
That's great.
Hmm.
So as you said, there's a run planned at the Arcola in January. Is there anything else planned for Spin, or is it going forward with the Arcola and then we'll see what's next?
Yeah, we've had some offers from some venues in the US that would like to have it. And we're talking about doing a little US tour maybe next year, but that we're still finalizing venues and seeing what all of our schedules are like. I still don't quite know what my schedule is for next year, but I would love for it to have a more of a life and take it to more places. I have to be a little bit careful because I can't it's not something I want to just run and run and run all the time. It's quite sort of physically um and personally demanding. So I can't do a new city every night kind of tour. That would be I don't have the energy for that. So we're just trying to figure out what makes the most sense. But the idea is for it to have to have a life after the Arcola.
It definitely deserves it, and it needs to be a message that's spread as widely as possible. And the
Oh,
US
thank
is a good place to start. I mean,
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously my parents are British and I partly grew up here, but I think in a lot of, and I think it speaks to British people. The response we got in Edinburgh is that it resonates with British people, but I also think it's something that Americans would recognize um, very readily.
yeah,
It's got, I think America kind of has perfected a toxic devotion to capitalistic thinking that resonates with any maybe Western audience, but America's kind of the mecca of that stuff.
yeah. I mean, personally, like when I saw the show itself, like my first thoughts came to movies and TV shows that I saw because I'm still a bit young to know about everything personally, but it always resonated with, like I said, movies and TV shows, and all of those were American.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that needs to be it needs to be talked about. And
Mm,
yeah, it needs to be talked about because it's dangerous.
yeah.
Yeah, and then
Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say like coming out of the pandemic, like everything is so fragile. We don't want something to, like I said, make that leak worse. So
Yeah, just keep putting the tape, as you say, the tape over the leak. And yeah, it's dangerous and it hurts people like in a very serious way. But it's just sad. It's just sad. It's such a waste. It's such a waste of our lives to um to fight with our bodies all the time. It's such a waste. And it's so convenient for systems that profit off of that. Um yeah. Yeah, it sucks. And I would love it if like this play is sort of my take on it, and I feel like there are 1,000 plays you could write about this, and there's so much that I wasn't able to cover. Like it's quite painful because there's just so many ideas around this that I wasn't able to cover. Like you could have a whole play that's just about race and fitness culture, and I sort of touch on it in my play, but um there's like there's a whole play you could write about class and fitness culture. And um you know yeah, it's Christian fitness culture as it relates to Christianity. Like there's actually a really strong history there. It's all very strange. So it would be lovely if there was more conversation about this, more art about it.
and it's pretty sad that there's so much that can be written about it and on so many different angles. But like you said, it's tough on you as a performer to have to deal with all of those things at once and perform them again and again. but it's also tough for an audience to take. And there's a point where it becomes a bit too much. And when you're like, oh, wait, no, it's too much.
I was worrying about that with this piece. It kind of got darker than I like intended it to be. But I also, I love making jokes and like I try to make it as funny as I can, and give I don't want to just hammer everybody over the head all the time. I do think, we should have space to laugh and there should be moments of lightness. And I try to bring that throughout the piece. So it's not just like doom, the whole,
Exactly.
whole time.
Yeah, and I think that's something that worked very well because there were moments when I remember sitting there thinking, oh my God, that is exactly what our society is like. Then you bring in a joke, or there is, without giving too much away, there is some sort of musical interlude that comes in, and you're like, but maybe it's not all that bad. So it's like little moments of respite, and you're like, it's good, and it's good, and the comedy is it's effective, and it's not too out there, and it's not too forced. It's just it's all natural, so it's great.
Right. You don't, I don't want to, I don't want to like, I want it to make it something that people can still enjoy. And I want to take care of people. I don't want this to just be doom and gloom and like traumatizing, re-traumatizing for people. I want it to feel like there's space and there's breath and there's hope and there's laughs along the way. That that's important to me as well.